Guys, someone just put the tap on. My name is Michelle and I love books, and I've never made a YouTube video about reading and my favourite books, so I thought 2021 is the year to start. So I just wrote a list of 21 of my favourite books, and I just thought that I'd recommend them for you to read in 2021. I know that there's a lot of books that people recommend over and over again, so I thought I'd split this video kind of into two parts. So the first half is going to be books that are talked about a lot, so maybe if you don't really read a lot and you're looking for amazing books, then definitely watch the whole video through. Maybe if you watch booktube a lot and you have read a lot of books, make sure that you wait till the end of the video, because that's when I'm going to be recommending books I never really hear anyone talk about but are equally as amazing as the others. By the way, I don't have a big bookshelf because when I was about like 12 or 13, my dad bought me a Kindle, and then he linked his Amazon account to that Kindle, so obviously I just bought all my stuff on his Amazon account, and yeah, I still do to this day. JK. Yeah, so I only read, like, I don't really use my Kindle anymore, I just read on my phone. So yeah, that's why I don't have a big bookshelf, but I promise I do read a lot and I absolutely love reading. So my first book that I'm going to recommend you is my favourite book of all time. Very overhyped, everyone loves it, but for good reason. Literally, we're not best friends if I haven't told your ear off about Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. It's about a gang of 6 misfits. Some of them are part of a gang, some of them have been in prison. Some of them, or one of them, is a witch and she's like outcasted by society. She has to keep it a secret, and anyway they all come together to pull off this heist for this insane amount of money. It's quite character driven, like each chapter is taken on by a different character, and it's epic. Like, you just love all the characters. Quite a bit of romance, but not too much, and yeah, the plot is amazing, the characters are amazing. It's a duology, there's 2 books, and it's actually becoming a TV show. So Six of Crows is actually kind of like a spin-off series to the main trilogy in this world, which is called Shadow of Bone. What? Shadow and Bone. I didn't really like that series that much. Not much at all actually, but I do love Six of Crows. So Shadow of Bone is becoming a Netflix TV series in 2021. However, the Six of Crows characters are also going to be in that TV series. So if you like Six of Crows and you like Netflix, then 2021 is the year for you. My second recommendation is the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. Again, very, very overhyped. However, it was so overhyped that I did not read them until this year. I swear to God, like, I read the first book when it first came out, and I think like I wasn't like too bothered about it or something. I think I was literally too young, because then over lockdown I decided to read them again. My friend Jodie wouldn't stop going on about it, so I read them again, and oh my goodness, I loved them. I just feel like I understood it a lot more. I loved the references, and it was exactly what I needed during lockdown. And obviously we're still in lockdown, so it's an amazing world to just get sucked into and be able to like escape your worries for a while. It's definitely one of those series, well, all of the books were like ones where I was planning like, okay, when can I pick this book up next, because I loved reading it that much. So the Mortal Instruments is about a world where there are mundanes who are like normal people, and then there are shadow hunters who fight demons who try to come into this world. And then the story starts when it turns out that one mundane can actually see into the shadow world, and she shouldn't be able to. It turns out she and her mum are not who she thinks, and the story carries on from there. I just got shivers explaining it. Oh, I love it. So yeah, number 2 is the Mortal Instruments series. Number 3 is the Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. Again, it's another set of series in the same world, but it's actually set a few centuries before the Mortal Instruments. It's set in the 1800s, I think. And again, has the most wonderful characters and a really interesting plot. So yeah, the Infernal Devices has my whole heart. I love Will Herondale. I'll never stop loving him. Anyway, number 4 is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This is a bit of a controversial one, guys. Like, essentially, let me tell you my story. I have quite a Throne of Glass story. So I read them, I think, when they first came out. well, I read Throne of Glass, and it set the bar. It set the bar for me. Like, ever since then, subconsciously or not, I've been comparing all my other fantasy reads to Throne of Glass because it's kind of just perfect for me. Like, I know a lot of people say it's boring and predictable, but that's what I like. That's what I like. It's got everything I like. It's got assassin princesses, it's got magic, it's got a great plot, it's got romance. Well, what is not to love? So yeah, I love the first book, I love the second book. Wasn't too sure about the third book. And then that's when kind of like a lot of problems started happening. The author kind of got into like quite a bit of controversy for some of her decisions. And yeah, I think I read the fourth one after that and like it didn't get any better. And then I don't think I read the fifth. So then yeah, I decided that I was never going to read Sarah J Maas again. She was just, you know, I just didn't agree with any of her decisions. I felt like the ending of the series was becoming like a completely different series to what it started with. So yeah, I totally didn't carry on the series. However, Kale Westfall is the love of my life. And she released a book about Kale Westfall ages ago, years and years ago, and I still never read it to this day. Actually, that's a lie. I still never read it until lockdown again. And I was in this really bad reading slump, and I knew the only book to get me out of that reading slump would be the Kale Westfall book, Tower of Dawn. It was excellent. It was excellent. So bear in mind, I hadn't read Sarah J Maas in years. Read this book. I'm literally tearing up. I'm tearing up. That's how good it was. So yeah, I couldn't do this video without recommending Throne of Glass because it is like an epic fantasy series for me. However, it is controversial and I don't know if I should be promoting her, but there you go. I can't deny Tower of Dawn was one of my best reads of 2020. So next I have A Song of Wrath and Ruin. Wraiths and Ruin. I read this one this year. It was really good. Ever since I read the synopsis of it, I knew that I was going to love it. It's about a boy, I think he's a refugee who comes with his sisters, and his little sister, so cute, ends up being abducted by this kind of like spirit. And I think the only way to get her back is to enter like this. Oh, I remember what he has to do. Anyway, to do that he ends up, I'm not going to spoil it for you, that's why I'm being vague. To do what he is tasked to do in order to get his little sister back, he has to enter this competition. However, there's like another parallel point of view from the princess in the palace, and her mom has been assassinated. And she, I can't remember exactly why, but she decides to give her hand in marriage to whoever wins the competition. And then she's gonna kill them. Yeah, I remember. And then she's gonna kill them. Anyway, so you can see where this is gonna go. But they both like kind of fall in love. They have to like kill each other. So sad. So yeah, if that takes your fancy, that is A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. Next up on my list is Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Oh, this book was delicious. I finished it in a day, like literally 1 or 2 sittings. I remember I sat outside in my garden on like a summer's day and just read it all the way through. It was absolutely amazing. I think every chapter is like a different husband, but it is a longish book. So I don't know if I'm right when I say that. But anyway, it's about this like old school film star. She's quite famous for having like 7 husbands, and I think she's quite secretive, like she's never really done any interviews about it. And then she calls up this one specific person to let them do an interview with her, which is like unheard of. So then they go to her house and they interview her, and like throughout the course of her telling her story from like the beginning and like all the 7 husbands she had, you find out who her favourite husband was. And he was never even a husband. Like, let's just leave it at that. Who her true love was. And it's his most heartbreaking story, I guess. And there's lots of twists and turns. It's just amazing. It's amazing. The next book that I have to tell you about is Red, White and Royal Blue. Again, everyone loves this book for great reason. I absolutely love this book too. It was so well written, it was a beautiful love story, and it felt quite real to me. Like, it felt quite possible that, you know, that someone from the royal family of England could fall in love with someone from the son of the president of the United States of America. I think I remember when I reviewed this, I was like, I've never been in love, but this book helped me think about what it would be like to be in love, like something really cringy like that, because it was super well written and it was just a beautiful love story. So the next book is The Shadows Between Us, and it's great. It's a standalone book. It's about this girl, and she decides to make the king fall in love with her so she can murder him. But then she ends up falling in love with the king, and she doesn't want to murder him anymore. Anyway, I feel like I gave a terrible synopsis. I can't remember everything about it. It was just a standalone, which I was super sad about because it was an epic story. So yeah, it was a great book. The next book I have to recommend to you is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Kerry Maniscalco, I think. Sorry, Kerry, if I butchered your name, which I probably did, but it is amazing. Like, I loved the first book. I think I gave it 4 stars. Very interesting premise. It's about this girl who, it's set in whenever Jack the Ripper was around, like the 1800s or something. And this girl is supposed to be, you know, a proper girl wearing like dresses, going to etiquette school. But she doesn't want to do that. She's fascinated in what her uncle does, which is like autopsies and stuff. He's like kind of like a criminal investigator, but he does like the autopsies and he goes to the scene. And then she starts helping her uncle out when there's a string of murders. So yeah, so then she has to find out like who Jack the Ripper is, but she's being helped out by her uncle's assistant. Love of my life again. So there is very much this kind of like hate to love relationship, because I think she kind of feels like she doesn't need him there and she wants to prove herself, and he is just lovely. um, anyway, yeah, so that's Stalking Jack the Ripper, and then every book from then on is kind of like a different place firstly, and a different plot, and they're all great. They're all great books. The next book or series I have, oh, is amazing. It's called Illuminate. Again, like, you've probably heard of it if you read a lot of books. And even though I mostly read, well, yeah, I pretty much only read on my phone, Illuminate is one that I would urge you to go out and buy in person, like the physical book. I didn't do this, but I really wish I did. It would just be a lot more effective in reality. But anyway, I enjoyed it nonetheless. So the interesting thing about Illuminate is it isn't typical prose. It is written in such a way, it's kind of like, imagine like a heap of documents like for an investigation, and then, you know, you'll have some like pictures, you'll have like written up like observations of what they're seeing at the time, and stuff like that. You'll have like screenshots of messages between people, and basically this whole sum of documents comes together to make this story. And it's like set in like a futuristic world where people live on like spaceships essentially. So they're living like on this spaceship, and the AI that runs the spaceship, I think his name's Aiden, he goes a bit like crazy and he tries to like blow the ship up or something. But yeah, there's also like a bigger problem going on like in the world, and then all three books talk about like different characters on like different ships, all facing like different problems, but that come together to prove that there's like a big problem in the world, and like all the documents come together in like a court case against it, and it's wicked. It's like nothing that you've read before, so super good. The next series that I absolutely loved when I was a kid is the Winner's Curse series. This romance was just absolutely amazing to me when I was a child, and I thought the main character Kestrel was absolutely amazing. She was so strong, she was so clever, Literally loved her, wanted to be exactly exactly like her. Now that I've grown up, I know that it's not the best romance, to be honest, because it is essentially between Kestrel, who is like a very wealthy woman. Again, it's not set in modern times, it's kind of like in a world kind of modeled after, I'd say, like Romans or something. I might be completely wrong. But yeah, her dad is like a wealthy like slave owner. Essentially, it's a different world, but essentially it's got the same parallels. And she buys Aaron for some reason. Like he's a slave, and she purchases him to make a stand or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I know that a lot of people are uncomfortable with the story, which of course, yeah, I should have realized that when I was a kid. And I don't know again if I should be recommending this, but again, like Throne of Glass, the character's amazing, the writing is amazing. So yeah. The next book that I wanted to recommend to you is The Book Thief. Again, you've probably heard about this. It's so good. It's one of those books that like I'll probably never forget about. It's done in like such an interesting way. Like I know that the narrator is deaf, so it's very, very interesting. And if you like historical fiction, especially, you'll really enjoy this. And then the last popular kind of book that I wanted to talk about is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout, I think it is. I find myself thinking about this book a lot. Like, if you've read a lot of books, you'll have times where you're just thinking about something and you'll be like, what book is that from? And for me, a lot of the time it's From Blood and Ash. Like, I feel like whether there were different parts of the book or not, in my head, like, it feels like there was like 3 different books like in that one book. Like, there was the beginning bit where she's like the princess and she's like stuck in the palace and she's got this new guard. Then there's like the next bit where she's like kidnapped like by this person. Then there's like the next bit where we find out some things and it like leads up to the next book. So yeah, I think about that book a lot. And it's definitely an adult book. Don't read it if you're too young. Don't read it. It's definitely got adult themes. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say for that one. So now I'm going to move on to talking about some more underrated books. These are books that I don't hear people talk about that much. Obviously you might have, and that's fine. But yeah, maybe I'm just like looking in the wrong places, but these are some of my favourite books that I never hear anyone really talk about. So first, this book series is amazing. It's called Red Rising. It's by Pierce Brown. And it is so good. Like I think I have one friend on Twitter who will like just scream about this series to each other all the time. Again, it's definitely like it's more of an adult book, but you could still read it if you're a young adult. It's just quite gory. It's like a gory version of the Hunger Games. It's set in like a futuristic world where there are different kind of classes of people, not too unlike today. But anyway, there are like the golds at the top, and then who's at the bottom? The reds. Yeah, that makes sense, wouldn't it? Red Rising. So then like the reds are at the bottom, and obviously like in any world, like the lower classes want to rebel, so they end up taking this red, and they like physically turn him into a gold. Like they physically change his body and stuff so that he becomes a gold, and then he infiltrates like their training academy for their military training. And then the first book is all about the training academy, and it is basically like they just leave them like in this like forest for like however long until like one team wins. And you know, they have to use like survival skills, they have to I don't know, like pick off the other team essentially. So yeah, that is book 1, and then the rest of the series just gets even better with them trying to make like a bigger change as a whole. So yeah, it's awesome, and I really don't hear enough people talking about it. The next series that I wanted to talk about is Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. I read this book like years and years ago, the first one, and it's about this girl who is like a prisoner and she's being sentenced to death. I can't remember why, but the is he like the head of the god or something, Valek? He comes down and he gives her an opportunity to be the king's poison taster. Like she has to taste all of his food in case it's poison, so she has to like train with Valek to like be able to smell poisons and like stuff like that. So yeah, essentially her and Valek fall in love. They are amazing, such a power couple. And then as the books go on, like there's a whole different world going on outside that they become very involved with, and it's a really great series. The next book is truly a book that I have never ever ever met anyone who has ever read this book, and it was literally my favorite book for like my whole life until I read Six Crows, and that is Cross My Heart by Katie Klein. It is just a contemporary romance novel. It's set in high school, and I've literally read this book like so many times. Like on my Kindle, like there's just so many bits highlighted because every time I read it, I find something new that I love about it. And yeah, I literally like modelled my personality off of the main character for many many years. She like got me into like drinking water and not eating like fried crisps. Oh, honestly, so weird. But yeah, I absolutely love this book, and the romance in there is amazing. The plot twists. I feel like I just relate to the main character so much. That's probably why. But it's epic. I love it. Then similarly, I never see anyone talking about this book either. It's Stealing Phoenix by Joss Sterling. So this is actually the second book in the series, but I got it in like a magazine. Remember when magazines used to give you books for free? Anyway, and I read it from the magazine. Am I even lying? Did I get it from a magazine? I might be completely lying to you. But anyway, the funny thing about this is one of my best friends from high school, she did it exactly the same. Like she read this book first. So it proves that you can read this book first. I have read the rest of the series. This is the best book. Stealing Phoenix is about a girl called Phoenix, and she has like magical powers. She can stop time for like a few seconds, but she's kind of like got involved with the wrong crowd, and she like has to use it to like steal stuff and then take back to her kind of like head of the mafia person. um so yeah, so then this one time she's out there like doing a steal. She's trying to steal this guy's like iPad or whatever. So she like freezes time, she goes to steal it, but she realizes that someone is like working against her. Like someone else must have magic because they're trying to like unfreeze the time. And then that person has like magical powers where they can set things on fire. So they set the iPad on fire and she burns like her hand. Then obviously she didn't get the iPad, so her like head mafia guy isn't very happy, so she has to go back and try again. So she goes back, tries again. Turns out they're soul mates. So in this series there are like, oh, I think they're called soul finders, and they're literally soulmates. Like there's nothing you can do. You're just gonna be together forever. You're just gonna love each other. But yeah, obviously again it's kind of like hate to love because they're very different people. Eve is from a very rich family, and she is like a nobody who like lives with like a gang, you know, like in the slums of London or whatever. It's awesome, and I love, obviously it's set in London, so I always freak out when I go to London. And I'm like, oh my god, that's where Eve lived, like there and stuff like that. The Barbican. Every time I see the Barbican. So yeah, anyway, one of those. Next is Ruined by Amy Tintera. Maybe people talk about this, I'm not too sure, but I was obsessed with this book a couple of years ago. Like I would just talk to anyone who would listen about the book that I was currently reading. It's very good. So it's about this girl. It's actually very similar to Ash Princess. Sometimes I get them mixed up, but no, Ruined is about this girl from like a ruined country, and she pretends to be like a princess who's on her way to like this other country. She pretends to be her. I think she kills her on the way, so anyway she can assume her identity, and then she goes and like pretends that she's supposed to be like married to like the prince, but obviously she hates them all because they all like killed her country, if that makes sense. um but yeah, she ends up falling in love with the prince, and she doesn't want to kill him anymore. Like it was, there's a theme here. A lot of my books have this in them, have this theme in them. But anyway, she falls in love with him, and yeah, it's very good, very good. The next series is one of my favorite. It's called the Limitia series. Basically, I hardly ever recommend this to people because you have to love high fantasy. Like you cannot just pick up this book like for your first read of in 5 years and you're never going to get through it. Like it's a huge book, so many plots going on. It's quite hard to understand. It's got a few adult themes, but I feel like it filled like a hole in my heart. It's beautiful, and yet it's super high fantasy. Like, I don't even know if high fantasy is the word, but that's the only way that I can describe it. Like, it is it's very in-depth. I've never read The Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones, but it's how I imagine those really like thick chunky books to be, like very in-depth. And yeah, I love it. So it's about Finnegan, and his country was destroyed, all the royal family were killed, and he was like the son of the captain of the guard, so he was like best friends of all the royal family, so he lost like everything on that day. So then since then all the Lumitarians have been refugees, and he's been going around the world like trying to find Lumitarians and write down their story in this book. And then along the way he finds this girl, and it's kind of like prophesized that they're meant to meet, and she's going to be very important in the story. And then yeah, basically like the end goal is to bring back Lumitere, take it back from like the captors, and yeah, restore like goodness. So it's really great. And then the rest of the series follows like other characters who I love going into like other kingdoms to forge like treaties and stuff. And yeah, the second book in the series is actually my favorite, which is very rare. It's called Froy of the Exiles. I love Froy. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say. It is lovely. Then the next book series that I wanted to talk about was Grave Mercy. I can't remember the name of the author. So this is about a school of assassins, basically women assassins, but they're not really assassins. They definitely are assassins, but they're not called that. They're called like, it's like they're kind of like nuns in a school that worships death, if that makes sense. So like they believe that everyone that they kill has to have like a death mark on them, so that like their god has like wills them to die, and they're just carrying out God's will, if that makes sense. And anyway, they get like put on missions and stuff. So yeah, this one, the main character like goes on a mission in like some sort of like castle, and yeah, she falls in love with the prince, I think. And then there's several books following like different girls from the convent kind of thing, going on different missions, and they're all kind of like intertwined with the castle. So you get to know like all the characters really well, like the prince, and then like all of his like god like best friends, and the main character and like all of her best friends, and it's very nice, very nice. So then book 21 that I wanted to recommend to you is The Kiss of Deception. Again, it's like a lesser known book that I've never really heard anyone talk about, but it follows the main character who is supposed to be in an arranged marriage. Wow, I just remembered how amazing this was. So she's supposed to be in an arranged marriage, and she doesn't want to do it, so she decides to run away. So she takes like her favorite like handmaiden or whoever, and they run away into like this like nearby village, and they pretend to be bar maidens, like just working like in the pub. And then one day two handsome guys come in, and the plot twist is one of them is a prince who she was engaged to marry, the other one is an assassin. And I'm reading the book, and I don't know if I'm dumb or if this was a desired effect, but like I'm reading the book, and then it was literally like I thought I knew who was the prince and who was the assassin. Like I thought that had been established. And then about like 70% through, something happens that makes me realise that, wait, I've had it wrong this whole time. Like that's actually the prince. That's actually the assassin. And then when I checked, like I think the chapter names, like they never say like the prince or the assassin. They just say the names of the guys, and obviously she never knows which guy is which, so you never know which guy is which. So like that's what like keeps you on your toes like the whole time. And obviously you want her to fall in love with the right one, or maybe you think that the assassin like isn't as bad as they're made out to be, and no. But yeah, it was really epic, and yeah, I just couldn't put it down. And I remember that time when I realised that I'd had it wrong the whole time, and I was like, this is the coolest book I've ever read. So yeah, that was the Kiss of Deception. So now I've talked about books for half an hour, I'm gonna finish the video here. So if you want to see me talk more about if you want to see me talk more about books, make sure you subscribe. I make lots of other videos as well, but I do love talking about books, so I'll probably do that again. I'm always looking for new books to read, so if you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to make more friends who love books as well, so let me know in the comments below and we can chat. And yeah, if you liked listening to me ramble on about books for half an hour, then make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye! 'Cause you're fake.